YouTube, welcome back to LadyGi. Thanks so much for joining me again. If you're new to my channel, my name is Zenab and I am a Brazilian Jiu Jitsu practitioner here in Calgary, Canada. I actually own my own school along with my husband as well. And today I'm going to be talking about things that I wish that I understood when I was a white belt. When I started jiu-jitsu, there weren't a whole lot of other women that were training, and I kind of had to figure things out on my own. And now that I'm at a higher rank, and now that I teach a women's class, I'm kind of passing on some of my wisdom and my knowledge, and I thought I would share it here on my YouTube channel. So the first thing that I wish that I understood when I was a white belt is that I needed to be comfortable with taking risks. And I think that I played it a little bit too safe. And I see this a lot with white belts. Everybody gets to closed guard. They hold on for dear life and they're so afraid of transitioning from that position. Or maybe it's mount, or maybe it's side control, right? You get so comfortable holding down a position that you're not taking risks and you're not allowing yourself to experiment and be creative and try new things. And when you're not doing that, you're holding yourself back from learning new things. And I say this a lot in my YouTube videos, is that you need to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. So if you're constantly playing it safe and you're not taking those risks and you're not making yourself uncomfortable, then you're not really allowing yourself to learn and you're really holding yourself back. Don't get into closed guard and hold on for dear life. Try opening it up. The worst thing that can happen is that you get passed, and now guess what? Now you get to work on your guard retention. So there's always going to be a silver lining in any disadvantaged position that you found yourself in. So just make sure that you're taking risks, you're trying new things, and you're not playing it safe all the time. The second thing that I wish I really understood as a white belt is that I should not be comparing my jiu-jitsu to someone else's jiu-jitsu. I should never question, okay, why are they getting better faster than me? Why are they winning tournaments and I'm not? How come they're just better at it? Maybe I suck. Like, you'll get all kinds of thoughts into your head. It's unhealthy. You're setting yourself up for depression and you're just gonna get even more upset and you're gonna start hating jiu-jitsu. And we don't want that. So never compare your jiu-jitsu to someone else's. I will say this though, the only thing that you should be comparing is how much training are you getting in as compared to the other person. Because the only way to get better at jiu-jitsu is by doing more jiu-jitsu. The more mat time that you have is better for you. If you are constantly skipping class, maybe you're even skipping the warm-up, or you're leaving early and you're skipping out on the rolling portion of the class, or specific, or you're sitting out a lot, well, how do you think you're gonna get better if you're not making it to class? So the only thing that you should be comparing is, am I making it to class? Am I being consistent? Don't ever compare your jiu-jitsu to someone else's, because your bodies are completely different, right? Things that work really well for me and my body type are not going to necessarily work well for you, and vice versa. Your jiu-jitsu journey is yours, and to compare it to someone else's, you're just going to start to really get upset. The next thing that I wish I understood as a white belt is that it's okay to use my weight. I think I used to get really scared of using my weight in certain positions because, I don't know, I didn't want to hurt the other person, or I didn't want to seem like that person who was rolling really crazy. But I learned that there are times where using your weight is necessary, right? There are certain positions where you have to use your weight, and if you're not using it, then you're just going to allow the other person to escape. So if you have weight, learn to use it responsibly. Obviously, don't smash and pass your partner, especially if they're brand new on their first day, but there is a time and place to use your weight, and learn how to use your weight responsibly. The next thing that I wish I understood more as a white belt is understanding concepts behind a technique. Both of my professors are huge on making people understand concepts before memorizing a technique, because you can learn a technique and learn, okay, step 1 you do this, step 2 you do this, step 3, 4, 5, etc., until you get that tap or until you get that sweep. But if you're not understanding the concept and why balance and understanding the center of gravity and body mechanics and the physics behind a technique works, you're never really going to understand jiu-jitsu. And once you understand those concepts and you understand all of those elements, jiu-jitsu really starts to make sense. And I wish I understood this as a white belt. And I know that my professor would always say, do you understand the concept? Do you understand the concept? And he would say this over and over and over again. And I was like, why is that so important? Why can't I just memorize how to do an arm bar from guard or a triangle without really understanding all of this stuff? Like, it's just too much information. But once I really started to understand the concepts, jiu-jitsu just made sense. And it really is something that a lot of people overlook because they're in such a rush to learn and move up the belt rank and start submitting people. But you won't get there unless you really understand why jiu-jitsu works in the way that it does. The next thing, and this is probably my last point, that I wish I knew as a white belt, or I wish I understood more as a white belt, is the importance of specific training. I love rolling, and I used to hate specific because I hated going up against all the bigger guys in the room. But doing the same technique over and over and over again against different body types is actually very beneficial to your jiu-jitsu. I don't know how you guys do specific training in your academy, but the way we do it at ours is that everybody goes to the wall. The instructor chooses like 8 people to go on the ground, depending on how many people make it to class that day, and you just start cycling through. So we'll work on something very specific like sweeping or submitting, or you need to pass or something like that. Like the top person needs to pass, bottom person needs to sweep or submit. And then if you win that round, you stay on the ground, the other person gets up and they go to the back of the line. So that type of training, doing like 20 straight minutes of that over and over and over again, and you get to work on different body types and there's no rest in between. You maybe, as the line is moving up, you get like 30 seconds of rest and you're just going and going and going and going, and you're working on the same position, the same technique over and over and over and over again over like 15-20 minutes. So specific training, especially for white belts, if you're new, try not to skip out on specific. I see a lot of white belts who are new will sit out during that time because they're afraid of a white belt sweeping them over. But that type of training is really, really helpful to your jiu-jitsu. All right, guys, there you have it. Those are some of the things that I wish that I really understood when I was a white belt. I think when I started training, I really took jiu-jitsu for granted and I didn't really take the time to be more intuitive and be more in tune with my jiu-jitsu. So these are some of the things that I now pass on to my students when I'm teaching: understanding the concepts, making sure that we do enough specific, teaching them how to use their weight, making sure that they don't compare their jiu-jitsu to someone else's, and learning to trust themselves, right? You have to be able to trust yourself and take risks if you want to advance in your jiu-jitsu. So I hope these things helped you out, and I hope that you can marinate on them and maybe apply them to your BJJ training. If there are certain things that work better for you and things that you wish that you were really more in tune with when you first started jiu-jitsu, leave them in the comments below. I love reading your guys' comments. So yeah, I hope that was helpful. And you guys will catch me in my next video. Bye.